Well, good morning, everybody. It's Barb Katie here, and it's so good to see you again. This, as many of you know, is my very favorite time of the year. And I thought since it is my favorite time of the year, I would try to express to you why I find it so. I was really lucky as a little girl. I had an aunt, her name was Gertie, and she had a farm. And I very often got to go to the farm to visit with my Aunt Gertie, who was my mother's mother's sister. She was just one terrific lady. She could do anything she set her mind to. And because she worked a timber farm, she could do a lot of different skills that women typically in the day were not doing in the cities. But on the farm, everybody pitched in and got done what needed was to be done uh, as a team. And so many lessons I learned standing beside, working with, helping my Aunt Gertie carried forward into my life as I grew up. In fact, today I'm sharing some of those life lessons that I harvested during my season with my Aunt Gertie. She's been gone many, many years, but those lessons live in my memory, and I treasure them dearly, and they taste as sweet as they did when they were first harvested. So, with that in mind, I went back to something I learned in Sunday school. I'm sure many of you who had the Sunday school experience probably learned this verse as well. And it starts out with, "For everything there is a season." And what I'd like to talk with you about is the part of that that says there is a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. And there is a time to gather what was grown. And this is my time right now to sort of share with you what I planted this year during this time when it should be plucked up and gathered in and used for the months that are going to be following here before long. And I had questions, and I think it's always good sometimes to look back on a project that you took on, whatever it's related to, and it could be related to many different things, but uh, all projects follow a similar pattern that you can relate to a gardening experience. I always plant a little garden here at the house just to keep in touch with that part of me that reminds me that growth is natural, but growth does just not happen in the way you might desire it if you aren't involved in the process. So there are always questions to be asked at some point in time. And if you don't ask the questions, then I think sometimes you're doomed to keep making the same mistakes over and over again, and you don't learn and grow from the experience. So there are four questions that I always ask, and that is, did the sun shine on it? Uh, I can't do a lot about that. I'm not in charge of the sun, but I have confidence that the sun comes up every morning, it sets every evening. Hopefully, it's not a lot of cloudy, rainy days so that there is enough sunshine to allow photosynthesis to happen and shade when needed so things don't get burnt and parched. Uh, and water that is needed and everything. But some of the things I can control a little bit. The first thing I ask is whatever I planted, did I nurture it? Or did I just toss it out there on the bare earth and hope for the best and forget about it? Because that happens sometimes. You'll say, well, I'm going to plant this and we'll see what happens. Well, without a little help, it may not thrive, it may not survive. So then I asked myself, well, did I weed it? when it needed weeding, or did I let the weeds take hold and choke the tender seedling before it really had a chance? I have a role in this process. Whatever this seedling may be, it may be a walking commitment, it may be a different way of eating commitment. It may be getting more sleep, dealing with stress better. It could be anything, this little seedling that you're planting. Did I water it? Did I make sure in times when there wasn't enough rain that I tended to it in that way, in that nurturing manner that we just mentioned briefly a little bit ago? You know, what was my role throughout its growing cycle when I was trying to get it up and established so it was strong enough to begin to go on its own? In fact, I relate that a lot to, did I stay with it long enough to give it a chance to grow into a habit where it could flourish and begin to take care of itself? Um, Developing new habits is really difficult because you have to tend to the habit. And I think a lot of times we don't do that. We say, okay, I'm going to do this, but then we don't follow up with all the steps needed to keep it front of mind and give it a chance to grow and develop and become a part of our new lifestyle. Um, to see if it's going to be integrated into all the other systems we have in place to help us live our lives in a less stress related way without a lot of extra effort. You have to make the effort first to get it established. And once it's established, some things keep coming back year after year, like strawberries and asparagus. And you're so happy that you did the work it took to get them to the point that they needed to be. Do we wait long enough to think about harvesting them? Not everything happens in the same timeline. Some things take longer than others. They just do. I'm thinking here in the area where I live, there is a tree called a persimmon tree. And if you pick the fruit of the persimmon tree too early, it is so sour your jaws almost lock up. You have to actually wait until there's been a hard frost and then you harvest the fruit. And the fruit is so sweet if you wait until the fruit has had a chance to go through its cycle and produce the product that you're longing to taste. Brussels sprouts are another common one. They need to be harvested after a heavy frost. So many lessons to be learned just in the process of planting that apply to our life in general. Uh, when I look at what I've planted, I always say to myself, is this something I want to do again? I evaluate how much effort did it take? Was it worth the effort that needed to be made to produce it? Did I quit too early because it took much more effort than I anticipated that it would take? Did I like the end result? Was the end result what I was looking for? Was it not? Will I replant next year the same thing? Or will I decide that's not something I want to incorporate? Uh, I get really tickled at myself every year because every year I plant cucumbers. And I love cucumbers. I truly, truly do. But I'm always afraid I'm not going to have enough cucumbers. Now, that's really ridiculous because every year when I reevaluate, I say to myself, Barbara, next year, plant 2 cucumber plants. Do not plant any more. And it's almost like I stamp my foot down at myself and say, no more than 2. and they grow so easily from seeds where I live. It's just no problem. So usually I'll plant 4 seeds. I know. Don't say that. I know. And they'll come up and I'll select the two healthiest little plants after they have developed their fifth and sixth leaves, and I will pluck the other two. And and my plants will begin to grow. And for whatever reason, the place in which I plant them every year is perfect for cucumbers. And they begin to grow, they begin to produce. Uh, and if you've ever planted cucumbers, zucchinis, or squash, you know that they are generous givers, and you will be eventually inundated with them to the point where your neighbors will no longer open their doors if you come up on their porch with a brown paper bag, because they will know you're trying to give them more of your largesse from your garden. This year was the same thing, and they're usually my earliest producers. So I do replant them. One year I planted gourds. They did quite well, but I swore I would never plant gourds again because there's not much you can do with a gourd. And they are prolific and they go everywhere and they will choke out other plants if you're not careful. So I decided no for gourds. I evaluated this situation. What I did get from the gourds, with a lot of extra work that I had not anticipated, was an opportunity to share with the neighborhood children how to make decorative things for the around the house, out of these dried gourds that had been cleaned. That was fun. We had a great day doing it, but I'm not going to do it again. Somebody else can plant gourds and have the experience. Uh, so you make decisions based on the results that you receive, and some things you will toss out. Have we not done that in our journey with managing a healthy weight and a healthy lifestyle? Sure, we have. We've tried things that absolutely were more trouble than they were worth, were more difficult than the results produced, or simply did not work at all. But we tried, we went through the process, we learned, and we moved forward with a knowledge base of experience to help us along the way. We probably read a good bit about whatever it was we were doing, uh, and thought we understood the process until we got to the doing of it. And that's where the harvest is so important, because harvest is part of the doing. And if you do not allow yourself to harvest whatever it is, and sometimes the most beneficial thing from a harvest is knowledge. Things you learn from the experience that will help you move forward in whatever your journey is and to whatever destination you hope to reach, so that you can begin a different journey or new part of a continuing journey. For me, planting trees is a continuing journey. You don't just plant it and walk away. You need to pay attention to the sapling and to when it starts bearing fruit and whatever. There is always an opportunity to learn something from the experience. Um, I ask myself, when is it a time to make ready? When's the ideal time to plant some of these things? When is the ideal time to finally sow, to put it into the ground? You know, you just don't go out and lay a seed in the middle of the yard and hope for the best. You've got to do some prep work. Uh, but your prep work should not be so intensive that you never get around to planting the seed. And then, when is it time to rest? I think of all the things that I am guilty of, it's that one. I forget, and Mother Nature will remind me when I forget, that there is a time to rest. that we must be respectful of. That is part of the process of growing and learning and living our best lives. And if we do not take the time to rest, we may eventually be so exhausted and so burnt out that nothing will grow in our own personal gardens. I don't know if you've ever reached that point in your life where you're so exhausted, I can't do this anymore, or I don't want to do this anymore, is what you're thinking to yourself. Maybe it's because in the process of living your best life, you forgot to allow time to rest like I did. Um, I can tell you that's not a good thing to have happen. Rest is as essential as exercise is. We've talked many times about getting enough sleep, which is, the same as getting enough rest. You know, most of growing things rest in my corner of the world during the colder winter months. The soil even rests during that time. Things are probably there resting, ready when spring comes and the earth begins to warm again to go through another wonderful growth cycle. But without the rest, that's not going to happen. So right now, I guess what I would like you most to be doing is enjoying your harvest, reaping the rewards of the hard work you have put in, examining what you have done up to this point as this tempting time of celebrating the harvest is the point is when there seems to be that we are benefiting in many ways from so many tasty recipes that we enjoy and are so thankful that we're able to provide for each other that it sometimes gets difficult. I know the uh, Canadian Thanksgiving is today, and it's the whole season now lies in front of us. What I call the feasting season, where every time you turn around, it seems there's another occasion to celebrate with food. Celebrating with food is not a bad thing. It just needs to be something that we moderate, that we look to with a critical eye and make sure that we continue to enjoy the best and leave the rest and move forward, grateful for the harvest, grateful the lessons learned through the process, and grateful to have each other in our lives every day to enjoy the harvest together. I'm going to let you go now. And we've had a hard frost, and I know where there's a persimmon tree. So I'm going to do my best to harvest a few persimmons. I will talk to you later. Bye for now.